Good morning, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Sarita. I know it's been a hot second. So disclaimer and a little bit of personal life information. I took on a new job, and the old job that I've had for a while was one that I could very conveniently do from home. And this one is not. This is one where I'm spending a lot of time in an office-like setting where I can't burn candles. Yikes. So that's not great. I don't think that it's necessarily a forever job. And I will probably go back to some version of what I was doing before within the next year or whatever. But for right now, this is my right now job. And it's cutting down certainly on candle burn time, but also on like just video time, because when I come home, the ability to be able to put up the camera, sometimes the lighting is weird because it's at night, etc. It's just kind of killing that. I'm gonna find a better rhythm for it, but for right now, it's just kind of been a little bit of a hot mess. So I will try to make my videos a little bit more frequent, or at least more consistent. But for right now, we're just trying to catch spare minutes. I have a very late day today, so I'm waking up with a little bit of coffee, and I want to do a candle review. I do have candles that I've already burned that do need reviews. I have a beautiful vintage Bath and Body Works haul that I want to share with you as well. And oh my gosh, it's the end of July. So we're gonna have a July in review video as well. And there are a lot of candles there that I was burning in, like little ones that I was burning on my nightside table, or some bathrooms. I've had a few that I've done in the crock, which is actually quite convenient. Because when I'm away at work, I can set it up in the crock, come home and be like, what kind of fragrance do we have? Sometimes not too much, which is pretty remarkable, because a candle crock just completely liquidifies. Is that the word? Liquefies? Liquefies. I bet that's the word. Liquefies the entire candle and releases all of the scent oils into the air all at once, which at least for the first hour, for the first day, should be a very heady kind of experience. Sometimes not, which is not a good thing. All right, so anyway, definitely stay tuned and catch that July monthly review video, because there's a lot of candles there that I have not done dedicated reviews of, or did in the past, but there were like remainders of candles left and I threw them in the crock, and I want to talk about them. So there's that. Because I realized I have like an entire tub of candles, Kringle candles primarily, those huge ones that I've burned like halfway through, and have a really good sense of, and in some cases really like, but they're just so big. Shameless plug for medium candles. Medium size, medium size, medium size. If I say it 3 times, will it happen? All companies, please be listening to me. Yeah. So I have a ton of Kringle candles that need to just be burned through, but rather than burn them, I'm gonna go ahead and crock them so I can get those out. And then I have a ton of like Veluspa small ones, just a lot of small candles, not even talking about Bath and Body Works single wicks that have been sitting around, and I want to get those out of my house. I have enough large full candles that have never been burned to store, let alone like the half-eaten ones and the small ones. So that's my little push here in these next couple months to get a ton of those out, and you will start seeing those in the monthly review. Okay, close parentheses. Let's talk about the candle today that I want to talk about, which is a Kringle candle. It is a 3-wick that I purchased, and I tease this video a little bit. This is a candle that I think is quite successful for Kringle, and I haven't been able to say that for a bit, to be honest. And I've not even been able to say it for a bit for 3 wicks from Kringle. So it makes me really happy to be able to present one today that I think was in fact a success. Did it blow my mind? Did it change my life? No. Would I repurchase it? Probably not. So disclaimers and caveats there, but I do think it was successful and I want to flag that for all of you. The candle in question is coral and it looks like this in the 3 wick. So the 3 wick designs though are generally different than the regular tumblers that Kringle puts forward either in the apothecary or in the modern tumblers. So here is the design for coral in the regular tumblers. How stunning is that? Ah, yes, it's a yes for me. And spoiler alert, the strength and throw on the 3 wick was really adequate enough that you might be fine with a 2 wick. You might be fine with one of those apothecary styles or the tumbler, the modern tumbler jars. That label is stunning on those 2 wicks. And I've said this before, I appreciate the multiple wicks because frankly, Kringle Strength and Throw has not been good lately. But wherever you can, I like their 2 wicks better. I love how just so quintessentially Kringle those modern tumblers and the apothecaries look. This is just such a Bath and Body Works look. I get it. It's fine. It's a great like wick to diameter ratio, and a lot of companies are going to them now, especially the ones who traditionally have been giving us 2 wicks now feel that they need to go to 3 wicks and are resorting to this kind of Bath and Body Works side. Yankee, I'm looking at you. Kringle, or Goose Creek as well. And as we all know, Homeworks has been pretty solidly in the 4 wick category for a while. I'm not gonna hijack this video with one of my public service announcements about increasing wicks and diminishing strength and throw because all of you already know about it. I don't love seeing candle companies that have traditionally had 2 wicks now feel as though they need 3 wicks. It's a no. I would think that that's a red flag. Or if you're like a soccer fan, that's just a flag on the field, right? Why do we need 3 wicks now? Maybe let's just talk about strength and throw. Maybe let's talk about wax formula. Maybe let's get our candles, our 2 wick candles, up to a place where we don't need that additional 3 wick. That's what I would love to see. The minute you add more wicks, you're also adding the potential for more soot and more carbon residue being released into the air. So why? Even from a toxicity standpoint, why could we not put a little bit more paraffin in our wax formula and drop back down to 2 wicks? Or can you even imagine it? 1 wick. I'm looking at you, Yankee Candle from the 90s. 1 wick, and the whole cul-de-sac area of your subdivision could smell that candle. You know what I mean? All right, end of that. The 3 wick designs for Kringle, in my opinion, are pretty tacky. This is not one of them. So as stunning as those modern tumbler designs are for the coral, oh my gosh, look at this. So, and it has no seam too, because it's a real like computer printed design as opposed to a wraparound. Like I said, generally speaking, I've found their printed designs to be pretty tacky, but for whatever reason, this one is not. Yeah, it probably should have come down a little bit further on the jar, but it's this light blue, bluish, like slate blue color underneath with these like coral or sea plant designs that are textured actually. And given the nature of these particular sea plants and their texture, it just works so well with the printing. Like, it does not look cheap at all. It looks stunning. And usually when they do the design in the tumblers and then the 3 wicks, like one of them is stunning. Either the 3 wick is stunning or the label is stunning. Usually it's the label, but not both. This was one of those rare situations where for this fragrance, Coral, all the labels you had to choose from were chef's kiss. They were so beautiful, so apropos, so like beachy, so sophisticated, just absolutely perfect, 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 perfect. And I want to give really high marks to that because I know that I've sometimes been really negative about Kringle's design team and Kringle's aesthetic approach, especially for these 3 wicks. This is a winner. It may just take them a little bit of time to figure out the designs that work well with this computer printing and the ones that don't. The ones that look cheap, the ones that look sophisticated, and really focus on what they can do. And it'll probably be a trial and error situation, but this should definitely go down for them as a success. Okay, so Coral, the notes on Coral, by the way, this was a new candle for the summer? Was it summer or was it spring? Oh my gosh, every time I turn around, Kringle has like new candles. Because it came out, it wasn't a limited series, because if it had been a limited series, it would have just come out in one format. This, because it came out in all the formats, which are still available, I want to say that it was spring, summer. Yeah. I think they have they still have the 3 major releases, like kind of an early spring / winter collection, January, February. And then they have another one like late summer, late spring into summer, and then they have a fall one. Most candle companies have those 3, and then they can sometimes have other ones kind of around it. Yeah. So the fragrance notes on Coral are, actually, they have a really nice blurb, which is for the most part good, if a little bit long and wordy. Okay, so the blurb on Coral is, dive into the invigorating oceanic essence of sparkling bergamot and lavender, followed by the soothing depth of sandalwood, while creamy tonka bean and amber create a tranquil coastal aura that fills your space with timeless serenity. Okay, so beachy, calming, tranquil, spa-like, maybe, yeah, something like that. Top notes for this candle are ozonic freshness, sparkling bergamot, and splash of lemon. Mid notes, lavandin, which is very similar to lavender, but a little bit spikier and aggressive, yeah. Sandalwood is in the mid notes as well. Base notes are creamy tonka bean, smooth amber, and sheer musk. Okay, this is a real odd candle. And I noticed when people, like the brand ambassadors and various others that reviewed it, tried to explain it, they often were just kind of like, I think you have to kind of smell it by a daylight. Which I get. It is a conceptual. And sometimes with these conceptuals, and frankly, Kringle is very good when they do conceptuals. A very good conceptual will sometimes be very hard to break down, to dissect, to be able to point out individual elements because it's a mood, because it's an ambiance, because it's an atmosphere, etc. Yeah? And it's like all of the individual elements together, they become more than the sum of their parts. That's a good conceptual, yeah? And Kringle has a lot of them historically, very good conceptuals. I would say that this is a good conceptual. All right, so yeah, it is really odd, but not in a bad way. Now, I'm gonna tell you, this candle is top heavy. It's a top heavy candle. It is bright upper range to mid range. There are not that many bassy notes to this candle. So it's primarily a top range candle that is grounded into the mid range. And the notes on the bottom of tonka bean, amber, and musk make it seem like you would have a pretty bassy candle. It's not. It's just really not. So the amber is sitting high for sure. So must the musk be. And that could be what they're kind of indicating with the quote unquote sheer musk as opposed to just regular musk. Yeah. They also insist that there's a ton of creaminess in it. And I'm going to take exception to that. I'm not questioning that they don't have tonka bean in here, but in the blurb, they mention soothing and creamy several times. And there is really, I would say that this is not a soothing or a creamy candle. Now, it may be a lot of other things that are welcome. Soothing and creamy is not them. It's not bassy, it's not smooth, and it's not creamy. So I also do take exception to kind of the implication of the blurb that this is a spa-like soothing, like deep under your skin kind of candle. It's really not. It's almost exactly the opposite. So this is a sparkling bergamot candle, 100%. The upper notes here are very loud. It is a bergamot heavy candle, way up in here. Now, that does not mean that it's like a fresh citrus kind of candle. It is one of those like perfume oil bergamots, yeah? Bath and Body Works does this a lot. I mean, this is the standard profile for a perfume or a cologne, frankly, is a lot of bergamot and amber and musk. In fact, if you didn't give me any other inner notes, if you just said bergamot, amber, and musk, I would say it was a men's cologne. But if you add feminine elements and if you shift the amber and the musk up in the range rather than down and bassy, you might get more of a female perfume going up this way. Yes? Does that make sense? And this entire candle is essentially shifted up. Okay, so when I smell it, I know this is going to sound bizarre, absolutely bizarre, but since there have been bizarre descriptions and a lot of disclaimers about the fact that it's hard to describe, I'm just going to, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. If I did not see the notes and I was just smelling this, I would say that this is actually a spicy men's cologne, and perhaps like a fairly generic one, that is made unusual and unexpected in that the entire fragrance is shifted up in the range, okay? So I actually, and by spicy, I mean that I'm smelling something that almost smells like cloves, like ginger. Yeah, mostly clove and ginger. Along with the musk, kind of giving you that vague, like incensey, leathery kind of vibe. And then you add the amber, and then you add the bergamot. You know what I'm talking about? So think, and it's not the same candle, but think almost like a Midnight Cocktails from Bath and Body Works, like that kind of men's cologne kind of fragrance. At this point, kind of basic, most candle companies have some version of it, right? Because as we've talked about before, men's colognes and body care items, the bar has been raised, and now most all men's body care items, from even just over-the-counter kind of companies like Dove, like, Method and various others, Old Spice, they all have versions of this kind of a profile. But what is unexpected about this candle is, like I said, that which is usually a very heavy kind of bassy men's cologne has been made unexpected by the entire fragrance profile being shifted up into the mid and high range. So now you have an enormous amount of bright bergamot and light amber and musk all up in here. And the spiciness that down in the base would have smelled very cold weather, it would have smelled very incensey, etc. Now in the mid-range, lit by the mid-range, comes across as something unusual I guess I can't explain it any other way. I still think it's spicy. Looking at the scent notes, what could be communicated? I mean, it's probably the lavandin, which is very spiky, and in this case is probably coming across as herbal. herbal up against wood, up against amber and musk must be creating that kind of almost incense leather kind of like vibe. But it's all white. So if we're gonna stay with the sea kind of analogy, when everything goes very low in the ocean, it's so dark. It's black as dark. And if you've never been like snorkeling, and I haven't been, and you've never been like a deep sea diver, and I'm not, you get to that point in the water where you can't see anything and you need lights because it's just so dark. And then the closer you come up to the surface, the water starts getting lighter and lighter, and the sun starts filtering through, and you see the blue and you start to see things, you know what I mean? And then obviously the ocean that we're most familiar with, which is close to the beach and close to the sand, and you can see through to the bottom and it's clear and crystal, etc. That's like the very high range. So this is like kind of a men's cologne that sunk deep in the range would have been very cliched. And yet Kringle has essentially lifted that cliched men's cologne up in the water to the point where the sun is shooting through it, shooting through the water. And it's lighting up what is usually like a submarine kind of fragrance and just giving it a completely different feel. It doesn't feel as like men's cologne. It doesn't feel heavy, and it doesn't feel cold weather. Despite the fact that I think it is a spicy, like incensey kind of candle. And I think that there is a little bit of ozone, fresh air kind of aspect about it that is giving it possibly a little bit of a marine aspect. Now, here's the thing. I don't actually know if there's actually marine notes in here, but the sparkling bergamot is giving you that like sun on the water kind of feel. And I think it's the amber and what the spiciness, which could almost be a vetiver, right? Because it's almost like a vetiver and then a really high sparkling bergamot with an ozone, and it feels marine. And I wonder if it only feels marine or the association is marine because of candles like this, which have preceded it. So this is Bath & Body Works Salted Amber and Vetiver, very much in this category. Oh, but this is a really great candle. Smelling them together, I prefer this one Head and Shoulders. And though this one has a good deal of bergamot in it, next to this, it almost feels like it has no bergamot. Because you come from this candle, this Kringle candle is so bergamot loud. I don't know that I've run across a candle that's this bergamonty, this sparkling, this amberish, this, yeah. Man, that's a sparkling bergamot if there ever was one. And then on this one, because it has less bergamot, you just immediately smell all of the fresher nuances. So this candle just feels a little, it gives you more relief and feels less cliched perfume and more fresh and beachy. This one has orange flower in it, so it's probably got a little bit of a neroli with a vetiver and an amber, which is very similar to some of these notes in here. But because the bergamot is lighter than in the Kringle candle, you go right to them and it feels beachy / marine. And I said when I hauled this candle that I wonder if it's the color of the jar that's actually like kind of encouraging me to think of this as a marine candle, because I don't know, with the exception of maybe that touch of neroli with the bergamot, why I would think beach. Because I don't know, even in this one, that there is a true aquatic or sea-like note, a marine note. And I don't think there's a marine note here. And with coral, you've got the power of marketing to kind of suggest that it's beachy or marine-like. But it's kind of a conceptual, like, you know how Bath & Body Works also this, they have the, surf and sails? seeing sails, something like that. Yeah. You would kind of expect a marine note in a candle conceptual like surf and sails. But if you didn't have a marine note, you would expect in lieu of it, sparkling bergamot, a little bit of musk, maybe a little bit of beachy floral, and amber and various other things. And that's exactly what this is. So anyway, I'm sorry. I know I'm rambling. What I'm trying to say is that it can be a marine candle, but it doesn't have the marine note, if that makes sense. It's all of the other things colliding that are kind of giving it off that smell. So don't get it twisted. This is not a dupe for Salted Amber and Vetiver from Bath & Body Works. And between us, I would repurchase this. I would not repurchase Coral. For me, this is just a little too perfumey with the bergamot in it. And I do have to say this. I am impressed with how much I not only tolerated, but actually really appreciated this candle, despite the fact that I would say 40% of it at least is bergamot. If you told me that on paper, this is a sparkling bergamot heavy candle with kind of a light vetiver note, a spicy vetiver note, and high musk, I would say, thank you, next. Absolutely not. Perfume bergamot is not my favorite. And to me, that sounds like a cliche. And I think if it were lower in the range, it would be a cliche. But just that very simple thing that Kringle did to elevate everything up higher in the range made it a much more interesting candle. And a little bit more unisexual. Like, it has a lighter, brighter, almost perfumey as opposed to cologne-y kind of smell because everything was shifted higher. It just goes to show you that like little tiny changes in your fragrance profile like that, without even changing the notes, but just shifting them in a different place. Yeah, it's kind of like painters, like when they work with light or something in their works of art. Yeah, so not the same as Salted Amber and Vetiver. I always thought that Salted Amber and Vetiver was actually very close to another Kringle candle, which has been reformulated for soy. One of my favorite candles actually is Summerset. I love Summerset, and this one, for my money, very similar to this candle from Bath & Body Works, Salted Amber Vetiver. Salted Amber and Vetiver has a little bit more bergamot high notes than Summerset. So now we're coming down a little bit further. But Summerset, oh man, Summerset is good. All right, so Summerset, the notes on Summerset are top notes: pear, kumquat, peel, pomelo, and bergamot. So even though it doesn't seem, the bergamot is very light in this candle, as you can tell, the inclusions to this candle, you've got kumquat peel, which is a citrus, you've got pomelo, which is a citrus, and you have bergamot. So just on paper, very similar, as you can tell. Mid notes: red fruit, berries, peach, apricot, and then jasmine, gardenia, and peonies. It seems as though this should be a much fruitier candle than it actually is, because I do think that, I don't question that those things are in it, but the jasmine, gardenia, and peonies, I think, are kind of covering over a lot of that fruitiness. Think the fruit of like a fruity finish from Harry Slatkin. It's that kind of a thing. It's not a fruit candle. It's really more of like a floral amber sandalwood candle with a fruity finish of like a light pear. Even Bath & Body Works has a few like white florals with that kind of like pear fruity finish. That's what it is. But the biggest notes in this candle are the base notes, which are musk, sandalwood, amber, and vanilla. And here, the sandalwood is extremely creamy, extremely. And I'm kind of surprised they don't have Tonka in here, because it almost seems like a very Tonka-like fragrance. There's such an amount of creaminess that it almost goes vanilla-like, yeah? Like a vanilla musk. So less wood, more vanilla amber kind of. Oh man, this is good. This reminds me too of the profile of that candle from Illume, which is what is it? That's the grapefruit one. The, oh gosh, I'm blanking. It's like my favorite candle from Alune, next to Coconut Milk Mango. Paloma Petal. Paloma Petal from Alune has that same thing. A very rich Tonka sandalwood base with a fruity grapefruit kind of finish, but it has a lot of amber in it too. So it's like a woman's perfume that's got that creamy sandalwood Tonka. Like I said, light grapefruit finish. Very similar, very similar. Man, I love this candle. The one that coral is probably the closest to though is this one, and I haven't burned it yet. This is Sea Salt and Tonka, which is still very much in Kringle's catalog and maybe fairly successful. Sea Salt and Tonka, the notes here are top notes: sea salt, lemon, marine, and citrus. So once again, you've got the lemon and the citrus, right? That's your bergamot situation. Here you actually do have listed marine notes, sea salt and marine. Mid notes, tonka bean, lavender, and jasmine. So those are very close to coral with the lavandin, at least, although the coral candle doesn't have listed floral notes. Base notes, amber, sheer musk, and cedar. So amber and sheer musk are both in the coral candle, and the cedar inclusion probably is very similar to the sandalwood inclusion of coral. And smelling them together, they are similar. This is louder though, and much more bergamot-y. I mean, it's like I said, at least 40% sparkling bergamot right off the top of the jar. It's like effervescent. And I think with these notes that smell almost like clove and ginger, I know this sounds bizarre, but it almost kind of mimics like a soda pop in that it's just so bubbly, effervescent, brassy, and it's got this like clove, ginger, along with an amber, which could be almost like a honey. So soda pops often have that formula of like a brown sugar, a vanilla, a clove. And then if it's like a ginger ale or something, like a ginger, something like that. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't smell like a soda pop because it's got that musk and it's got the amber to make it more of a perfume. But that kind of shows you like what kind of like really kind of aggressive and loud candle it is. Whereas sea salt and tonka is a lot of these elements, but as with salted amber and vetiver from Bath & Body Works, less bergamot. So especially smelling it in conjunction with coral, you just go right to the more fresh and authentic elements. Here you can smell the lavender a little bit more in an authentic kind of way. And it's a lavender as opposed to like a lavandin or something that's a little bit spikier and herbal. It's a true lavender. And then with the jasmine, I think it's like softened and sweetened and floraled further. But then it also has those marine elements and a creamy dimension. And then the salt, which leans into that little citrus bergamot thing on top. To be honest, I think this is a more nuanced candle. It's definitely a softer candle. I think it's going to be more palatable. But right now, smelling it, it's coming in, like my cold sniff experience seems like kind of a 4 on a scale from 1 to 10. Whereas you smell this coral candle and it's coming at you at like an 8. And let me tell you something, the strength and throw on this was very similar. I lit this coral candle up, admittedly, with the 3 wicks. And honestly, it was at least a 7.5 in the open concept. Now, often it felt to me more like an 8. And it's because of that bergamot heavy 40%. I mean, it really gets up there. And it's impressive that this candle doesn't choke you out, because for me, it didn't choke me out, but it's a true perfume conceptual with all of that bergamot and the amber and the musk. Yes, it is shifted up into the higher range, so it's lighter and less heavy and overwhelming as it would be in the lower range. But don't get it twisted, it's still a perfume conceptual and it's still a whole lot of sparkling bergamot coming at you at least a 7, if not an 8. So it is not a candle that is shy. At least and it burned fairly consistently all the way down. I mean, I would light it And I would kind of brace myself and be like, okay, like your space is gonna smell this way, you're gonna smell it. This is not a subtle back bedroom kind of fragrance. It's really not. But like I said, impressive how palatable it was, given that it was so loud and it was so bergamot heavy with that perfuminess, with really the inner notes still also being a little on the heavy side. Even if it's just the lavender and the sandalwood or whatever else, it comes across like a vetiver, like a light vetiver. And that is not like, it's just not a sweet or light fragrance note. And so considering all of that and how loud the candle is, very impressive, and a fairly unusual candle, to be honest. It is great for right now for like an August kind of situation, I think. Nobody would mistake this, I think, for a cold weather scent because it's just way too high in the range. And I think August is about right for it, to be honest. Just be careful if you don't love perfume conceptuals, number one, and be careful if you don't love brassy bergamot heavy perfume conceptuals. That said, I flee from them like it's my job, and I burned this candle all the way down and actually kind of appreciated it. Would I purchase it again? No, I wouldn't, because when it comes down to it, there are so many other candles that are similar that are under my skin and that I adore. Summerset is one of them from Kringle, Salted Amber and Vetiver from Bath & Body Works. And so for that reason, it has competitors and I just prefer them. I think the other ones are a little bit less bergamot heavy, more creamy, more bassy. And I think that they are able to communicate the kind of vibe of this blurb, which says that it's going to be soothing and it's going to be spa-like and it's going to be tranquil, etc. I think all those other three conceptuals land more in the soothing place than this coral candle does. Coral candle is not a soothing candle. It's kind of unabashed and it is loud and it is proud and it is perfumey and there's an exuberance to it. It's an exuberance to this coral candle that feels like sparkling light on ocean waves. You know, like when the sun is at a specific place on the water where the whole ocean just lights up in this kind of dynamic way. And it's so powerful, especially if you're like on a white sandy beach where you almost absolutely do need sunglasses because it's just that brilliant. This candle is much similar to that vibe than to this like creamy spa, tranquil, like low-key kind of marine beach vibe or coast vibe, as in the case with like Summerset, I think. So very much a point of view, and I applaud Kringle for, like I said, I believe probably making just small changes to a fragrance that otherwise would have been fairly cliched. So I think it's very impressive. Full marks for the packaging, full marks, gorgeous. Kringle, please keep doing stuff like that. That was just, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful and stunning. All these candles are available, and I'm going to link all of them, frankly. Even the Bath & Body Works Salted Amber Vetiver is back for the year. So I'm going to link all of these down below because I think that they're all kind of in the same-ish category, which I think is a great category for July and August, by the way. And so if you're interested in any of them, I'm going to link them down below. All formats for sea, salt, and Tonka and Kringle's website. All formats for Summerset are available on Kringle's website. All formats for coral are available on Kringle's website. And Salted Amber and Vetiver is available at Bath & Body Works. So get your August on. I know all the Halloween candles are coming out. I know all the fall candles are coming out. I know. But let's be present. Let's be present. Like, this is actually still late July. We have all of August. And yes, like, fall will get to us. The cold weather will get to us. But for some of us here in the United States, we're going to have a blazing hot weather for at least another 6 to 8 weeks, right? Let's just instead of like escaping, let's just lead in a little bit to like this late summer kind of thing. Let's be on the beach for a few more weeks, right? And let's just try to experience the most positive aspects of late summer, admittedly very hot and very oppressive. And at the very least, I know y'all are going to be logging into Kringle to buy your Halloween candles, to buy your fall candles, you know, even if you have no intention of really burning them for another month or two. When you're making that purchase, you're already paying for shipping, right? In most cases, add a couple of these summer ones on, right? Get yourself a couple candles to burn right now, along with the ones that you're going to burn in a month or two. Yeah? I love you guys so much. Thanks so much for joining me. I know this was a long one, but we kind of did a pretty like exhaustive compare and contrast. And although my take on this fragrance is kind of a little in left field for coral, I think hopefully it helped, because I know when I was watching all of those reviews, I just got the sense that it was a very unusual fragrance, and I agree with that. It is. So the more takes that you can hear on it, probably the better. Stay tuned, hopefully very soon, for another Christmas in July candle here at the end of July, for a Bath & Body Works vintage haul, and 2 other Kringle fruit candles, which will be coming up hot on the press. Thanks so much. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.